So it has been a while since my last upload, which is by no means good, but what has been happening? In creating the 22-minute long video explaining Rinascita's historical timeline, I found myself doing way more research than I initially thought on the real-world science and history to explain what is really happening. Well, after a month of studying various topics, I finally have all the information linked together to create the theory of everything. This video is mainly going to explain the entire overview of creating Wuthering Waves, and the next bunch of lore videos relate to each topic. I'll also explain how the story of Genshin will most likely end to represent the different adaptations of the same history. This is leak free, but a massive spoiler warning for what is to come. Throughout this video there will be redemption codes for 30 astrites and some in-game consumables. A special thanks to Kura Games for providing these codes. They've given me 70 codes to give out to you guys in these videos, and these codes are limited to the first person to redeem the code. My research started with explaining how the divinities of Rinascita are an adaptation of ancient Greco-Roman beliefs. The Olympians, Celestials, and Titans are understood to have the roles of the sea, sky, and earth, of which Rinascita has mentioned the sea and sky divinity, but not an earth divinity possibly yet. But why do we have these specific divinities in both Rinascita and mythology? Well, in the pre-Socratic era of the world, which is way more than 2025 years ago, the belief was that the world was made up of three elements, Pir, Ir, and Idor, which in English roughly translates to pyro, meaning light and fire, air, and water. English is a modern language, so something like Pir was more so the embodiment of fire and light. Initially, they were never referred to as elements or storch either, whereas today we have the periodic table of elements, which in itself was an initially proposed idea in ancient philosophy by Democritus, but rejected because it was seen as mortalizing higher powers or just atheist belief. The reason that this three-pod elemental or arche system was favored was because they were seen as pure, and purity played a massive part in the understanding of the deities in mythology and ancient beliefs. Chinese mythology explains this a bit better with their generation cycle, where water generates wood, wood to fire, fire to earth, earth to metal, and metal to water. It wasn't until later that Aristotle, Empedocles, and other Greek philosophers in the Socratic era established there are four elements, Pir, Ir, Idor, and Yi, which is fire, air, water, and earth. The four classical elements in every piece of modern day story writing and games. Aristotle later added that there is a fifth element being aether, which is space or darkness. Aether being the quintessence, which means it's perfect and unchangeable unlike the others. This very model is what creates both Wuthering Waves and Genshin's elemental system. Epoch and Spectro form the aether element, Aero is air, Glacio is water, Fusion is fire, and Electro is earth. For those who don't know, Electro was originally called Conducto in Wuthering Waves, which would be metal, and metal in Chinese mythology is generated from earth in the cycle. So this explains all 6 elements of Wuthering Waves. So how does Genshin achieve 7 elements? Genshin has taken the Greek mythology version of the creation of the universe. According to the mythology, Aether, the dark element, is embodied as chaos, a cosmic entity, the mother of all the celestial beings like Ananka. Moments after chaos was formed, Yahweh formed, which is the concept of God and light in many religions. I know this isn't to say that religion is inspired from this mythology. Another name for light being Lumine. Aether and Lumine, Havoc and Spectro. From Lumine or Yahweh we have the elements, and from Chaos or Aether we have the Abyss. The 7 elements of Genshin are known as the light dispersion of Lumine or white light. Simply put, the elements are the colors of a rainbow. The traveler goes through Teyvat collecting every element, which is a 1/7 fragment of Lumine. So if you want to know why elements are regional based, it wouldn't make sense for a fragment of light to be split into different regions. And this is why we call the powers a vision, because light is a visual sensation. I would suggest skipping this next part to avoid spoilers for Genshin Impact, because it may tell you how it ends in 3, 2, 1. Once Traveler collects the 7 elements, so the 7 colors of light, they'll be made whole again with the help of some external catalyst. This means they'll become a combined element called Lumine, which is spectro light or the opposite of Aether and the Abyss. The unknown that Lumine and Aether brought is most likely Aeon. the oldest being of the same power of the cosmic entities known as the Trimurti. This is not a leak, it's simply understanding how Genshin adapted this historical model. If you want a more detailed version, then I would suggest reading about the Trimurti in Hindu philosophy. It will also explain the inspiration and significance of the Akasha terminal in Sumeru. Going back to Wuthering Waves, this model of the elements has many more layers of meaning. Instead of using light as a concept of how power transmits like Genshin does, Wuthering Waves uses sound, which collectively includes Threnody, resonance, null, and like remnant frequency. In simple English, Wuthering Waves is using sound to explain the model of the elements. This video is only an overview of the topic, so I'm not going deeper lore-wise for now. With this understanding of the elemental model, every single piece of story written from Marvel, Disney, Hoyo, Kuro, and anyone else you can think of have the same exact foundation. Using this model in combination with ancient poetry and Rover's 4 remaining elements, which would be the 4 classical elements or the 4 humors of the human body in medicinal terms, we can derive what the story will be around Rover's remaining 4 elements. Since there is a core, or what is referred to as the first principle, or pure arche consistent across all cultures. And this covers one section of formulating a story or game involving elements. The next section is creating the characters and plot, which many writers take inspiration from various mythologies. This may take the wonder away for those who think of the minds of Shakespeare, the Marvel and DC comics, and the Disney stories. They are the most popular stories we know of, but these minds never invented the wheel, they only innovated from it. It started with Homer's Iliad, a piece of ancient Greek poetry which seems to be inspiration for characters like Fleur-de-Lis and Zani. Fleur-de-Lis, however, also takes inspiration from Christian beliefs. Homer's Iliad contains the story of Troy and Achilles, who was helped by Hera, also known as Juno, the wife of Zeus, otherwise known as Jupiter. Hera was seen as pure and associated with a lily or a fleur-de-lis, and bestows speech upon an immortal horse named Xanthos, born of the Zephyr wind. This horse was one of the many gifts given to Achilles, a mortal who was blessed by Athena to defeat Troy in battle after Paris' judgment. Achilles, known for being gifted by the gods, whose most symbolic gift is a shield, seems to be inspiration for Zani. Zani means gift of God. She is the most reliable to the Montellis, and she has a shield. The horse born of the Zephyr wind seems to be the key to understanding who the horse divinity is. We know that Errol wind does exist, and the Zephyr wind, also known as the west wind or Favonius wind, is also mentioned in Christianity as a wind of relief and blessing. However, Fleur-de-Lis traveled eastward, which would be a westerly wind, so it is possible that Kuro may have the inverse meaning that this horse is an east wind which symbolizes destruction and change, so it would be a Threnodian. And we know that these characters relate to Greco-Roman mythology because the names Phoebe, Rashia, and Cetus all relate to the same mythology, but they are not mentioned in Homer's Iliad. Paris' judgment, which is alluded to in Homer's Iliad, is also used as inspiration for the original story of Snow White. At the wedding of Achilles' parents, there was an apple inscribed with the words "to the fairest of all." Thus, a decision had to be made who would get the apple between Athena, Aphrodite, and Hera. Whoever received the apple would be known as the most beautiful person or the apple of one's eye. Zeus did not want to make this judgment, so he gave the responsibility to the prince of Troy named Paris. Paris chose Aphrodite, making Hera and Athena angry, which led to them helping Achilles to defeat Troy. From the story in Homer's Iliad, the apple has become a universal symbol for discord in story writing. The Snow White and the German version Walter Disney used as reference is based on Paris' judgment, using the negative connotation of an apple for poison. How close a new story relates to the original is different across each writer. From what I've researched, Kuro's story writing has plenty of layers of meaning and unique twists. Whether the response to this is positive or negative is based on numerous factors and years of research, which I have compiled some and shared as feedback and been lucky enough to receive a response. From what what I've gathered, Kuro's story writing itself has a double meaning. Resonators are not only these special characters, but creating these culturally inspired countries is also meant to resonate with the players. And the very final segment to talk about is the sci-fi theme of story writing and Wuthering Waves. I have been working on a video for about 2 months called The End of Wuthering Waves, which will explain the opening scene of the game in its entirety. The one principle to understand this theory of everything that allows you to see what direction stories are going is a very basic understanding of Einstein's relativity. I'm not a physicist, there are no numbers involved, so don't worry. Essentially, a story like Wuthering Waves that has a main character roving through different periods in time is building on the understanding of space-time or the fabric of the universe. Rover is going to different periods in the timeline of Solaris 3. However, the shape that this timeline makes is not a straight line. In fact, it may be a Mobius loop thanks to Changli. This will take an entire video to explain it fully, but essentially, space-time in science is a fourth dimension which is not easy to visualize. Because it is not easy to visualize, many good sci-fi stories will visualize it as three-dimensional instead, and take it from there to explain time travel and a multiverse. So the point of this video is to explain how researching all this information and connecting everything into one formula for this video and others led to this period where I did not post. I'm not happy with myself for not posting, but realistically speaking, I would not have been able to make this video and the following lore videos without sitting in the hyperbolic time chamber to study these various topics. I did get a bit of burnout consistently putting everything together, but apart from researching this information, I was also thinking of what editing style and sounds to use, from neomorphism to glassmorphism, just to visually demonstrate how I want to present the information. In future, I will handle these major down periods by hiring someone to at least put everything on the timeline for me, since I do A to Z by myself currently. That's why I'll still be posting even though I'm working on a major video at the same time. But now that I have all my research complete, I can make polished in-depth videos breaking down all the information. Let me know your thoughts below and I will see you in the next video.